Let's start our Lighthouses webpage by setting up our folders, doing analysis in Photoshop, and preparing Dreamweaver for all our code. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new folder. We can do that one of three ways. We can go up to the File menu, choose New Folder. We can hit the shortcut, which is Shift-Command-N, or we can right-click on the desktop and choose New Folder. Okay, our new folders are going to be starting with our last name for all the files that you need to hand in. And then we'll just put a dash because we can't have any spaces, we can't have any numbers. You guys know the deal with that, and I'm just going to do Lighthouses right here. Inside of this particular folder, we need two folders, so I'm just going to make sure that that is selected. And then I'm going to do Shift-Command-N, and this is going to be our _CSS folder. And then I'm going to click out of that, make sure that I'm back out in this folder because I don't want to make a folder inside the CSS folder, so we're going to back out a little bit. And then we're going to have a folder for our images. All right, so the root folder is set up. It's ready for CSS, ready for images, and then all our HTML files will be over here. So now we'll do a little bit of Photoshop analysis, get our images out, set up Dreamweaver, and then we're ready to go. Cruising on over to the Photoshop file, this is what we have to make. So we have to understand the boxes that we're going to create. And what we want to do is we want to keep this as simple as possible. So what I've done here is I've started with, and I just colored these for you. So our first box is going to contain this heading up here and this image. Okay, so let's just start with that box. Good to go. Our next box is going to contain this area right here. So it's going to look like that. Our next box is going to contain all of this area. Look like that. And our last box is going to contain all of these items here. So these are going to be in their own boxes, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So this is the main box that contains it, and then we need one more box down at the bottom. Now, coming back here, we know we need a box for this content. Then we need a box for these four contents as well. So that's going to look something like this. So if we look at the overall picture here, this is all we're making. We're making these boxes, and we're going to put content inside of them. We're going to add padding. You can see there's spatial relationships over here, right? So we're going to add padding. Here's some grid gap because you can see we have a 4-column grid right there. So that's just content that goes inside these boxes. So what's our wireframe look like? Our wireframe looks like this, each and every box. So your next step after creating these boxes is determining what tags you're going to use to name these boxes, right? And all those definitions are on Brightspace right now. And the semantic tags, if I'm just going to lower the opacity here so that we can see the areas, and I'm going to turn off these color boxes so we can see through that other area. There we go. All right, so this is introductory content that is defined as a header. Then we have the area that's going to click us to other pages. This is called the navigation. A heading and a lot of body text, has an image as well. This would be an article. And then this is another section, right? All semantic. They're not divs because div is not semantic. It doesn't say what it does. So the section says, I'm a new section. And then there's 5 sections inside of that as well. And then down at the bottom we have the footer. So if we look at what all this is going to look like, it looks like this. So we have a good guideline of the tags that we're going to use for this particular site. Now, if you want to take it one step further, you can actually figure out the headings that you're going to use as well. This can be the RH1. It's the most important. We know we're only allowed one H1 per page. As we move down here, we know these are links because they're going to link to another page. Here's another heading, and if we look throughout our page here, this heading and this heading are exactly the same, so they're going to use the same tag. Then we got paragraph text. Look at all this paragraph text over here. And then we have new headings, these Portland, Head, Brant, Point, Cape Nettic, all that stuff. Then we have a city, state. Those are definitely not headings, so we'll do that with P text. And they're different than our paragraphs, so they're going to need their own class. So if we really want to put this together and know a game plan before we get started, it's going to be something like this. So we see our heading, our first heading, H1, our image. Then the A is the link tags. You guys know an href goes with that. Then we have H2, all our paragraphs, right? If we want to just pull the opacity back, you can see the paragraphs right here. Each one of these needs to be wrapped in a P tag. Got our image over here, got another image here. H2, same as this H2, they're identical. So we don't have to do all that work over again. Same with the P. So all this text and formatting is the same. So we're going to wrap all those with P tags, all down here, P tags. Then we got images across here, and we have our heading 3s. So far we have a really good game plan, and I think we're ready to get started exporting the images and following this particular layout when we get into Dreamweaver. So our next step is to grab those images, and I'm going to turn off this wireframe so that we can see. So what I usually do is I'll select an image and I'm going to check its name, because this is the name it's going to be, and pick one top is breaking two of our rules. It has a number in it and it has a space. So I'm going to change this name right away, and we'll just call this header image. And I'll spell image correctly. There we go. Okay, so we're going to take that. That's cool. And let's check out this image here. Montauk 2, that has a number. So we don't like that. And this is really an article image, right? So that's our top article. So we can call this top text dash article dash img, top article image. So it's descriptive. It tells us what it is. Now let's check out these down here. US Lighthouses, there's a space in there, right? So we can either do a dash, or we can combine that, or we can just call it USL. Totally up to you, as long as we're following our rules. And then we can see the other 4 here are pretty good. So to get these out of Photoshop, again, I'm just in the Move tool here. I'm just going to click on one and shift click on the others to select them all. Now you can also command click them over here in the Layers palette, or just shift click on them here. And as long as they're all selected, you're pretty good to go. Now getting them out of Photoshop is pretty easy. Just go in the gray area over here in the Layers palette, and I'm just going to right click right there, and we're going to hit Export As. So as soon as the Export As dialog box comes up, let's move that so everybody can see it. We want to make sure these are all in the same format. Now, select all doesn't mean that all of these will be selected as far as changing the format settings. That means they're all going to be exported. All right, because sometimes what you want to do is select each individual one and give it a format. For example, if Cape had opacity to it, we would have to do it as an SVG, and we wouldn't do it as a JPEG. So each one individually can get its own format settings. So to change all the format settings at once, you have to select them all. I'm just going to come down here and hit Shift. So now they're all selected. If you want to select between some, just hold down the Command key and click, and then you'll select individual items. I know all these don't have opacity, so JPEG's the way to go. Format's JPEG right here. I also know number 6 because of analysis that we've gone over. 6 works with these particular images. They're all going to come out at the size that they are. That's how we're going to use them, so I don't have to change any of the width and heights. And the only other thing I really need to make sure is that Convert to sRGB is checked, and that should be checked by default. So now that they were all selected, and we see under each name they have JPEG to them, I can export these images into our image folder. Okay, just a side note here, just in case you accidentally click, you don't want to click on any of these right now. We haven't gone over what these mean, but they're different sizes for your images. So just make sure that the 1X is checked up there, and you can hit export. And then it's going to say, hey, where do you want to put these guys? We're going to go right into our Lighthouses folder, right inside of images, and we're going to hit open. And those should be in there now. Let's go double check. So we'll cruise over here, and I'm going to go into my folder, images. There they all are. Everything's named properly. If you made a mistake and didn't name anything properly, right now you can do that. You don't have to re-export. Just click on the name and rename it. Okay, so first click selects it. Second click will highlight the name, and you can do anything you want there. So everything looks good to me. I guess it's time to set up Dreamweaver, and then we can start getting busy. So inside Dreamweaver, the first thing we want to do is define our site. So we're going to go up to the Site menu, New Site. We're going to call this Lighthouses. And I have a couple of these, so this is for the 239 class. That's what I'm going to name this. Keep in mind, numbers, spaces, and capitals don't matter here. This is just for you to know, right? That's what appears over here. So it's what you choose over there. Okay, local root site folder, that's important. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to go to the desktop and choose the root folder. That's the main folder right there. So we'll hit choose. And then the last thing we have to do is show it where our images are. So we're going to choose advanced settings, local information. Here is the default images folder. So I'm going to click on that, choose images, hit choose. You're going to double check, right? It's on the desktop. Here it is. And if we just cruise this over, images folder. Great. Once we hit save, your last double check is to see that what you called the site is up here. And then your CSS folder and your images is right there. So that is our basic setup, and now we're ready to get started coding the site.